Hey everyone, welcome back to another Miniature Painting 101, a series of videos where we teach you all about painting miniatures from start to finish and everything in between, including faux textures. And that's going to be what we're doing today. We'll continue on with our pattern. Today we'll be doing some green granite, how to paint materials so that they look like granite, just typical green granite. So today we'll be using the same type of piece that we've been doing in the previous videos, and I primed it black. Now the key is for this particular effect is to start off with a black background, add some gray stippling, and then add some green over the gray, which will interact with the various shades to create a variety of colors. So we'll take some weathered stone in our large stipple brush like we did last week. So here's our large round stipple brush. And we're going to just use a very small amount on our brush, very similar to the amount we'd be like dry brushing, for example. And we're just going to stipple all over randomly around the piece of terrain. And as I said, the key is for this effect is just to have the black and then interact with a couple grays and then add greens on top of that. And the greens will interact with the black and the various grays to create a bunch of different shades, which combined with all the stippling creates that granite texture. And then we're gonna hit it with a gloss varnish afterwards. So as you can see, I'm just hitting the entire piece of terrain with the weathered stone, which is the lightest gray stone color from the Reaper triad of the stone triad. And once we got a variety of our stippling down, as you see, the gray really does show up strongly against the black. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create some contrast. And then we're going to take stone gray, the mid-tone gray from the Reaper triad for gray colors, and repeat this process. And what we're intentionally do is about half the time we're going to stipple over the light gray and half the time over the black. And so you're going to see it's going to be, after this, it'll be a lot of gray and a good amount of black as well still left on it. And it'll be, we're basically pre-highlighting up. And then when we stipple the green, we're going to leave some of the gray still there, but we're going to go some part of the black, some part of the gray, and then leave a little bit of the gray left, and it'll all interact for a granite effect. So it's hard to see now, but you'll see it when the effect is done. All just through a lot of stippling. That's the name of the game for the last couple miniature painting 101s. As you see, I'm not using that much paint on my brush, and just stippling heavily over or a lot over the piece. You see there's still a good amount of black left. Now we're going to take some WARBOSS green. We're going to work with lighter greens and then work our way towards darker greens at the end. So now we're going to do the same thing. Stipple WARBOSS green in random areas all over the piece. And what it's going to, as it says, what it's going to do is whenever you go over the grays, because there's a couple of different shades of grays and black, we've been pre-highlighting up essentially. So it'll interact with these, so it'll go over them and tint them green, but it'll leave the pre-shading and the pre-highlighting up there. So that way we're already creating a bunch of different tones, and that will have that nice marbling effect of granite. So as you can see, I'm just, once again, stippling heavily the WARBOSS green over the piece. And keep going until you're happy, essentially, with that amount of green, and then we'll go to our next shade, and we're going to work our way from lighter to darker, intentionally, because the dark at the end will kind of mask out some of the, if you have a problem with some of the areas being too light, you can dab it with the darker at the end, and that'll fix it up. So now we're going to take WARBOSS green, WA flesh, and repeat this process once again with not a lot of paint on our brush, but still stippling around the piece of terrain. And we're intentionally go over the areas some of the previous areas that we did with the previous green, as well as the areas of the grays and the blacks, right? Just do a random pattern all over, and this will interact to create a variety of greens, which will all meld together for the granite effect in the end. As you can see now, it's already starting to really get that granite pattern to it by just the random stippling. But we're going to keep going. And the key is just to frequently load your brush, have about an equal amount as I would for dry brushing, and then just keep going around the piece until you're happy with that amount of color, and then go to the next one. Now we're going to take CALIBAN green and finish up this process. So as I said, focus on the areas, random areas around the piece. Then if you find in the end that you find some areas too light, then hit it more with CALIBAN green. As I said, this is the final step. So as you can see, it's going to bring a lot of darkness into the granite color, and we've already had a really nice effect going already, but this will even add even more. And it's really cool to see it progress, because as you see, it's hard to see at the very beginning when you're doing the grays, but as you progress through these steps, the pattern just kind of emerges through your stippling. So you just keep hitting it with CALIBAN green, and then the granite pattern is starting to really appear through these processes. And that's it. So as you can see, when it's done, here's what the piece looks like. And then we're going to just take a gloss varnish and hit it over with so it's nice and shiny like the green granite would be. But as you can see, just the interact with the grease, and we left some of the gray left there. And you can still see some of the gray that hasn't been stippled over, and some of the black. But by pre-highlighting up the colors with the grays and then hitting it over with a green tint, essentially, we've created this granite pattern. But now I'm just going to take a gloss varnish and cover it a couple times. And after a couple coats of gloss varnish, we have a nice green granite appearing piece of terrain, and that's it. It wasn't too hard to produce. Just took a little bit of patience. Start off with a black primer, work our way up with grays, and then do greens over it, going from lighter to darker. And we've got our nice green granite piece of terrain. And of course, I did 2 coats of gloss varnish. That way it's really nice and glossy and shiny, like green granite countertops would be, for example. And that's it. So as always, thank you so much for watching this episode of Miniature Painting 101. I really hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for next week's episode, part 127, which is just around the corner. But if you don't want to wait for next week, check out the Warp. Click on the link below for a free 14-day trial to my premium YouTube channel, where not only get to see the next 6 months worth of Miniature Painting 101 episodes before anyone else, you get to see over 100 start-to-finish painting tutorials, battle reports and face-off episodes, an Airbrush 101 series, and its own Q&J series. Tons of content. I know you'll love it, so go check out the Warp. Stay tuned for more episodes. Until next time, this is Jay saying, happy painting, everyone.